Now can you hear me? Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me and to present a paper on the coffee scene or the coffee aroma in Malaysia, the emerging trend. I remember coming to Korea in 2004 to attend the APEC IT Ministers Conference here. And that time was also the World Cup opening, in which we were also invited to attend. I remember at that time, the IT industry was booming. But after I left, it exploded into what it is today. Well, 10 years later, I come to attend the conference on coffee in the World Coffee Leaders Forum, and I find that the Korean coffee scene and culture is booming. But I think I can assure you, after we left, I think it will be exploding also. So, in Malaysia, the scene is not like Korea, but is emerging. So I would like to start by having a short introduction of myself. Is that, of course, some of you may know I'm in politics, but my romance with coffee started way in 1981, where I was traveling as a young man at that time, tasting the coffee in Italy in, I think, the year 1981. And of course, I can still remember till today, the macchiato, or macchiato they call it, or latte, or espresso, or cappuccino, in all the small cafes, almost everywhere in Italy. For me, especially in Milan. Of course, this romance continued when I come back to Malaysia. And for some reason, there is a particular blend of coffee in Malaysia called the white coffee. White coffee, to many people, perhaps it means you add milk, which is white, to the coffee, and therefore you get white coffee. I will deal with that later. But this white coffee, as you know from my talk later, has evolved into what we call the 3-in-1 white coffee. It's a soluble product of coffee, instant coffee. Of course, we graduated from normal coffee and to what is known as the third wave, having barista brewing our coffee. I have also actually recently gone to visit the coffee plantations in northern Thailand, near Doi Chang, where yesterday our eminent speaker, Mark, has already described to you in detail. And there, we actually can see how coffee is grown, and in this particular case, they use non-chemical fertilizers, and it's not certified organic, but it's like organic in many sense. And if you see some of the slides, especially the third one, with the man carrying the baby, they actually dry their coffee bean on the platform, and therefore I believe it's a much better process. And this is, as what Mark has described, it is also grown by the Akha tribe, and it was an opium plantation previously. And whether the opium residue has gone into coffee, I'm not here to verify. But most important is that after visiting their farm, I have actually worked with a local guy, entrepreneur, to roast coffee and to import this coffee, which I know from this single origin, and I know the whole process, into Malaysia and into Penang in particular. And we only import the pea berry bean. And that's where my next project, which we are doing, has opened in Penang. It's called Monkey Cup Cafe. So if you Google Monkey Cup Cafe, you see the blogs and the description of this cafe. I'm not here to advertise, but Monkey Cup, some of you may know, some of you may not know, is a very unique plant in which the cup, they say, were used by the monkey to drink whatever water is there. It also traps insects and they will feed on the insect. But most important is that in urban areas, especially young people, they have not seen nor heard about monkey cup, and therefore I'm bringing this particular plant into the urban area where young people who come and visit a cafe can appreciate our nature and appreciate our culture. And therefore, it will lead, I believe, to a more sustainable development in our country and in this world. So I'd like to briefly talk about Malaysia. Not many people know that Malaysia, or at that time Malaya, in 1696, first planted coffee. And this is 3 years before the Dutch introduced coffee into Indonesia. Of course, when the prices of coffee collapsed, mainly around the 1890s, well, Malaysia, as everybody knows, we have converted all the plantation into rubber and later palm oil, so much so that Malaysia became the world's largest producer of rubber at that time, and now oil palm. So where does coffee stand? Coffee has almost no place in the Malaysian cash crop plantation. The hectareage is low. If I remember correctly, it's about 25,000 hectares only. And they mainly grow about 90% of Arabica, and the balance is either Robusta or a little bit of Arabica. So Malaysia is not a coffee producing country, but I believe it's a very good, it's a quite high coffee consumption country, and that leads to the coffee culture in Malaysia. And we cannot just talk about coffee culture in Malaysia just based on the international chain like Starbucks or even the third wave cafe that has been booming independently. I believe there is first an evolution, and secondly, there is an ecosystem of cafes, whether it's traditional, whether it's modern, but they all coexist. Of course, the trend that's emerging may be different. So to me, there are 5 types of coffee and tea outlets in Malaysia, and these have evolved from the traditional coffee store in a rural area into what we call the independent third wave coffee cafe. First is the traditional coffee shops, and in our Malaysian, one of the Malaysian Chinese local dialect is called kopitiam. I think some of you may know. And the second one is the mama stores. Some of you, of course, it's a local term. It means actually a Malaysian Muslim of Indian origin who actually opened these small stores, of which I will elaborate with slides later. And of course, from the traditional coffee shops or kopitiam and the mama stores, we have what we call modernized franchise coffee outlets that look like the traditional coffee shops, but they are more modernized with air condition as well as internet connection and so forth. I will not elaborate too much about the fourth, what I call type of a chain. This is an international chain. I would say in Malaysia, maybe pioneered by Starbucks and maybe Coffee Bean and the likes. But more important is that I think, which is bursting now in Malaysia, especially after Penang obtained his UNESCO heritage status, are the independent third wave coffee outlets that are booming in Malaysia, especially in Kuala Lumpur and the city of Penang. So what is a kopitiam? Kopi means, in Malay, it means coffee, or it's coffee, but when you pronounce differently, it's called kopi. Tiam means a shop, so it's the coffee shop. It's an old school coffee shop where they still use traditional method, and for some reason, it's operated by the ethnic Chinese in Malaysia. And Malaysia is a multi-ethnic country. Like you all know, mainly we have the Malays, the Chinese, and the Indians, and of course, other ethnic groups. But these shops mainly sells black coffee and sometimes white coffee, toast, and some of you who may not be familiar is that they have also soft-boiled egg, which sometimes they put over the toast, and some people may not like to eat it. But these are the traditional ways of food that are served in this traditional coffee shop. And white coffee is not black coffee added with white milk, but it's actually a kind of blend that is light roast without adding sugar nor, let's say, butter, as in the traditional black coffee in Malaysia. And this has actually boomed into what we call 3-in-1 white coffee. And I have a special slide and topic on that. And finally, these are places of political gossips or exchange, and sad to say, they are losing appeal. The young people say not so cool. Not so cool for two reasons. I mean, it's not modern, it's not air-conditioned, and therefore it's not so cool. So they are being taken over by what I call the third type of coffee outlets, where they are modernized and they are franchised. Well, the second type is the local mama shops, where I say they are Malaysian Muslims of Indian origin. One particular beverage which they sell is actually teh tarik. So teh tarik, teh means tea in the Malaysian language. Tarik means you pour. But actually, it's a process of when the final product will be like latte, where you have foam, or cappuccino on top, where the foam is on top, and you actually pour from the one container to the other container, and we call it tarik. Actually, it's drop, So if you see the slide on top, on the right side, on my right side, is you have two persons in the competition performing a very special art where they actually pour the tea from one container to another. Sometimes in this case it's backwards. And beside the single person there, I actually pull the slide longer to make it look actually elongated. But the proportion of the two persons doing the pull tea is the same. Of course, it's the same as also a social center for political discourse and so forth. But these are also undergoing the same transformation as the old coffee shops that we see, where they are better now, better run, with bigger, with air condition, and so forth. And very often, you have live telecasts of matches, especially football matches, whether it's English Premier League or the World Cup and so forth. Now, this is the picture I'm trying to show you. And this is what we call teh tarik. You actually pour tea, even as long as your arm can stretch, and it's sometimes about 3 to 4 feet long when you pull. It depends on what's your skill. You can pour backwards, and this guy you see is almost at a certain angle. But don't be surprised, maybe we have started pulling coffee. Don't be surprised, maybe one day, like the latte art there's a big scene now. Maybe perhaps one day you have your latte served in this manner. As part of the local coffee culture, there is coming. Of course, I think some of you gourmet coffee connoisseurs may actually not accept such an idea. But this is why we call a living culture of a local area that's transformed from tea pulling into coffee pulling. And I say it's going on using the local coffee, but whether they do it as a latte, I'm not sure. I've not seen it served in a third wave coffee outlet. So the third one is, I say, is the modernized coffee shops. That's evolved from a small store into franchise, let's say, for example, the international chain. And they are actually better served with Wi-Fi. The young people will serve as an alternative to the international chain, like Starbucks. Sometimes it's side by side with, let's say, international chain like Starbucks. But for some reason, the clientele is different. And for some reason, actually, they are more popular than the international outlets, which actually may cost 3 times more in the coffee, though may not be of the same quality or quantity. Well, pricing is cheaper than the international chain, but more than the traditional coffee shops. The challenge is how can they, with their central kitchen, maintain the same quality of food and drinks all over the country. I will just briefly touch on the international chain because everybody is familiar. But we must give them credit in Malaysia for introducing espresso and the latte or the espresso-based drink into Malaysia, and therefore paving the way for third wave independent coffee outlets to sprout, and perhaps may even challenge this international chain of coffee outlets. And everybody is quite familiar with the third wave coffee outlet. And it's prominent to me only in the last 5 years. But in Penang, and it is booming only in the last 1 or 2 years. Maybe when Penang got its heritage UNESCO status, there are more foreign tourists walking in the streets, searching for this espresso-based coffee, and I think that's where the demand is. And the local young population, for some reason, willing to spend more, maybe not like Japan, where my friend said that you have senior citizens who are actually consuming the specialty coffee, but in Malaysia, it's definitely the young people who are able to pay. Some people say maybe their papa rich, and therefore they just spend the money without actually concerning too much. And previously, we're just happy with just fresh coffee, and we just know where is the country of origin. But now, the baristas of this outlet in Malaysia and the customers actually now ask not about the country of origin, but sometimes ask which farm or plantation it comes from, you know. When I say from Thailand, or they ask which part of Thailand, and they begin to ask more questions, and they're beginning to share their knowledge. And this is growing very fast. So before I go into what prospects there are for coffee industry players, stakeholders, and investors in Malaysia, I just want to touch on one particular feature of a coffee product called 3-in-1 white coffee. For some reason, why white coffee? Not many people may understand, but it's called 3-in-1 white coffee. To me, if I say it's a Malaysian creation, I think not many people would disagree. And 3-in-1 white coffee is essentially, maybe Malaysians are lazier than the rest. We just want to have convenience. When I open a packet of coffee, I pour into my cup and I add water. I get coffee, milk or creamer, and sugar. And that's my 3-in-1 white coffee. And I think it's quite popular in China. And to me, that is a Malaysian creation. For some reason, I'm not here to claim or to verify. I believe Nescafe, because they probably invented the first soluble instant coffee in maybe 1938, or 1st of April 1938. For some reason, they are slow in going into this 3-in-1 market. They're slow. But sooner or later, I believe they realize the potential, and therefore they are quite aggressive in as you see the slide, they even have this white coffee, 3-in-1 white coffee at the bottom one. But I definitely do not underestimate Nestle. They are latecomers, but I believe with their marketing strength and working capital, I know they're going to come in a big way, and they have come in a big way. So that's why I see that the world recognition and endorsement of this 3-in-1 white coffee is actually well stated by the Nescafe 3-in-1 packet, if you ever buy one, which states that, and this in their package, is that with Nescafe original 3-in-1, it's now amazingly easy to make the perfect white coffee with sugar. Each single serve sachet has the right balance of coffee, whitener, and sugar. So you got the creamy and sweet tasting coffee every time. This is the 3-in-1 white coffee for you. And I've read somewhere that even the ICO, the International Coffee Organization, somehow quoted that 3-in-1 white coffee actually contribute towards the coffee consumption, especially Robusta, in Asian countries. So having said that, what are the prospects, what are the challenges, and what are the opportunities? Well, Malaysia may be low in coffee consumption compared with, say, Thailand, Korea, or Japan. And I've somehow found a slide produced by Nescafe, where, to my surprise actually, it says that Malaysia is at par with Vietnam, consuming about 1.1 kilos per capita of coffee, but below Thailand, which I think is about 1.9 kilogram per capita, and of course, no way to beat Korea and Japan, consuming about 2.4 kg per capita and 2.9 kg per capita respectively. So, Southeast Asia in general is facing an increasing coffee consumption, which, if I'm not mistaken, could be higher than other countries, touching at about 4.9% growth. It may be in 3-in-1 coffee, but wherever it is, it's still coffee. And Malaysia is in the forefront of this, to my mind, forefront of this 3-in-1 coffee. And the trend is definitely positive. And if it is a positive trend, I believe there will be opportunities for investors. And before I wrap up, I'd like to share a profiling of coffee drinkers in Malaysia. No doubt this is done by a magazine, and I believe most of them who reply may have been may be already coffee drinkers. They are definitely internet savvy, and they are young. But whatever it is, it gives a profile of a certain group of Malaysians who like coffee over tea, and I'm surprised even at 81.2%. And they also prefer cappuccino, maybe because it's easy or the name sounds better, over latte. And cappuccino at about 43%. And if you ask them, what coffee do they drink? For some reason, 50% say they drink gourmet coffee. And I believe to them it's the same as specialty coffee. And you notice at the end, they consume also 3-in-1 coffee, which is at about 12.5%. And they also say that they drink white coffee. To foreigners, they may be puzzling. But take it as a normal, local brew coffee, not brewed by barista, but by the local kopitiam, as I said earlier. So, finally, I would say that Malaysia growth reflects the global consumption trend and maybe slightly higher in terms of percentage. And the third wave coffee culture is definitely a very positive emerging trend, and they are here to stay. The same goes for international franchise chain, and they may be threatened by the independent third wave outlets. They are booming now. So the potential, I think, for investors and entrepreneurs, especially in the 3-in-1 coffee production, I think augurs well for potential investors. But greater investment and research is definitely needed if Malaysia wants to go back into coffee production. And this positive trend and emerging environment for all stakeholders and players in the coffee industry will be attractive, and industry players that stand to benefit, I believe, will include coffee machine and equipment manufacturers and importers, green and even roasted beans producers, especially specialty coffee beans, roasting plants and related equipment. You have utensils and accessories for coffee and other beverages, and of course, for some, it's the training, the certification, and so forth in coffee. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Malaysia awaits you and even awaiting the fourth wave. Thank you very much.